Charles, it's good to see you again this year. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Great to be here. Glad to be a part of this. It's always fun.
Yeah, this is our second year of doing Bitcoin for corporations. Charles, thanks for coming back again. For those who didn't join us last year, you want to just give everybody a quick background on yourself?
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Paxos, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we do at Paxos. We are really, at the end of the day, an enterprise-grade infrastructure firm. We have a high degree of regulation, and we're really built for companies to seamlessly access both the crypto economy and the broader blockchain-based economy. We tokenize, custody, trade, and settle digital assets. That includes native blockchain assets like crypto, but also certain assets like, say, tokenized dollars, tokenized gold, and also we've been working on tokenized securities that enable any asset to move at any time, 24/7, highly regulated, in an open manner. And this is, I think, part of the transformation of the economy that we're seeing broadly that we want to power. And as an infrastructure-only firm, we prided ourselves on being highly regulated. So we were the first trust charter that was approved by the New York Department of Financial Services in May of 2015. We have a conditional charter from the OCC for a national trust bank. We're working on a clearing agency with the SEC, and we have a number of other approvals outside the US and others that we're working on. And we've done this because being trustworthy is very important as an infrastructure provider. Large firms are built on us today, such as PayPal and Venmo, but also Mercado Pago in Latin America, Interactive Brokers, and a wide variety of other firms, both in the US and outside the United States. And being trusted and being regulated has been very important for those firms to feel like they can build a business on us for the long term. And today we're about 280 employees. We have ambitious growth goals. We'd like to more than double our employees over the next 12 months. And we've done that by having great investors, Oak, Founders Fund, plus a lot of strategics like PayPal, MercadoLibre, as well as Bank of America. So across the spectrum, firms in many different types of industries and locations.
Well, first of all, congratulations for building such an awesome company. And it sounds like some of your products and services are quite relevant to the folks that are listening today. A lot's changed in the last year since we talked. I think when we discussed your company last year, I think a lot of the things that you just mentioned were sort of new to the marketplace and new to a lot of folks who are joining us today. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the changes that have occurred for yourself, your company, and the industry as a whole in the last year?
Yeah, I think the last 12 months has been time of tremendous change. Really, I guess it was in October of 2020 when PayPal launched, and I think that was probably the largest, most mainstream firm that had entered the space. And now over the past really 12 or 15 months or so, things have really accelerated. Certainly we've seen this in our business where we've been able to add firms like Mercado Libre throughout Latin America, Interactive Brokers, a regulated broker-dealer offering it to their customers to trade, offering crypto to trade. We've seen Venmo be added on, and of course, Facebook Novi launched using a stablecoin to be able to move money and remittances. It's still in pilot form, but looking to expand. And so these are some really big companies that have entered the space on the heels of, I think, what PayPal did in terms of opening up the opportunity. And of course, there's many companies and corporations that had decided to enter the space from a treasury perspective, as well as to offer crypto access to their customers. So a lot has changed around mainstream adoption. And I think that's mainly been so far in really offering crypto. And the reason that's been important is because it creates a lot of community. It creates interaction with their customers. They come back consistently to see how things are doing. They're more engaged, and that's powerful. But it's just the first step. And I think what you're now going to see a lot in this next year is some combination of the change in the broader economy because of Web 3.0 and NFTs, which was another huge theme last year, and it's continuing on, how you can create digitally native information that can move around and be owned. And then secondly, how you can have payments for goods and services move using blockchain-based systems. I think what Facebook and Novi launched using our dollar stablecoins, which are tokenized dollars, was a really big shift about creating utility for blockchain systems in the broader real economy. And I think that will really translate over the course of the year. So a lot of things that are going to continue to shift. We're at just a rapid adoption moments and rapid innovation moments for the overall industry. That's an exciting place to be. It's an exciting place to be an infrastructure provider that's really trusted. We've built ourselves specifically for this moment, which is how can we facilitate as many different types of users to come into this world and be a part of an open financial system. And so there's, on the one hand, crypto brokerage products that we offer, and I've talked about some of the customers that we power. We have dollar stablecoins, Facebook Novi being the most notable examples, but we also have a Binance Dollar that is widely utilized. There'll be many more customers coming on that I think will really validate stablecoins as a use case in everyday goods and services. And we've also created a settlement service for commodities and securities, real-time blockchain-based settlement for traditional financial assets. So these are all commonly part of our offering as a regulated infrastructure provider.
That's awesome. And so tell me a little bit more about MercadoLibre. I think they're based out of Argentina, largest e-commerce engine, I think, in all of Latin America. What is their interest in companies like that, especially international ones, as it relates to digital assets and what you're doing?
So we're really proud to have launched them, and they have Mercado Pago, which is the kind of the merchant arm that is similar to Amazon, and they have MercadoLibre, which is kind of similar to PayPal's, their financial services arm. And I think that there is a recognition, especially within Latin America, that there's a lot of utility in being able to participate in the ownership of crypto in general, but also in the ability to have payments. And so what was interesting for us about MercadoLibre being able to launch with us is they didn't just offer crypto brokerage to their customers, and they launched initially in Brazil. They have ambitious expansion plans into additional countries, but they also launched with tokenized dollars. And so the reason this is interesting is it's showing an example here of how you're making an asset class available. You're creating a capacity for other countries to really be able to adopt crypto in an easy way, similar to how we have here in the US, whether it was Square or SoFi or Robinhood, but obviously PayPal and Venmo have made it relatively ubiquitous to be able to purchase crypto. Still maybe not quite as seamless as we would all like. There's more that needs to happen, but they're bringing that to markets outside the United States. But there's also recognition of the ability to be able to create cross-border movements of money. For instance, many consumers in Latin America hold dollars, but it's not easy. They hold the physical dollars. How can you hold electronic dollars? Not easy. That requires a bank account. They can make that available simply through a wallet function and partnering with us. And so this is part of a broader theme I think we're going to continue to see over the course of the next year, which is you now have the capacity to really be enabling more than just crypto, which creates, I think, a even more vibrant crypto economy. The more that we're enabling a blockchain-based financial system and a blockchain-based economy, the more that will underscore the value that crypto is providing.
Yeah, the intersection of e-commerce, buying and holding crypto, and also in a high inflationary environment is sort of that perfect use case. So really cool story. Congratulations on that. So tell me, if someone's listening and they're considering Paxos, what does a typical customer journey look like, right? When do they start evaluating options? When do they talk to Paxos, and sort of how long does it take from there to actually onboard?
Yeah, so there's a couple aspects to this. Even for kind of small, nimble players, this is a long-term decision. And so we're here as a partner for the long term. We really take a close approach with each one of the clients that come into us, even if they just want to simply use our APIs and be able to get moving very quickly. We're here to really work with them, understand what their journey is, what do they want to offer. Sometimes customers come in and they might want to start in a small place. On the other hand, they might want to offer a broader suite of products. So an example could be someone comes in and just wants to enable buy, sell, and hold crypto. And that's a very logical place to start because it's large enough that it really creates customer engagement, but it's small enough that you can wrap your arms around it. But then there become additional capabilities that we bring to bear, such as being able to send and receive into the blockchain, which is something we are able to do for our customers. And so that starts to create payments capabilities and transfers capabilities. We have tokenized dollar as well. So that could be something you want to launch, as we were just talking about with MercadoLibre. On the other hand, it might not be something that's important for your particular customer base or your particular corporate needs. So it really does become about how do we have the right high-level discussions, understand where someone wants to go in the long term, and how we can make that possible with near-term goals and go on this journey together by making sure that you're hitting the right API endpoints, you're able to build what you need. And this technical scoping and customer success team is something that's very important. That's, again, something we've invested significantly in, because as an infrastructure player, helping other firms is not a hobby for us. It's not something that we kind of do every once in a while. It's the only thing that we think about. And importantly, since we're not competing with our customers, we're not going to go out and acquire millions and millions of wallets or millions and millions of consumers or whatever it might be, even small numbers. We're not trying to acquire the end user. That's really, I think, reassuring. And so that means that we can have a really good partnership dialogue, because there isn't a fear that in some sense we could use that information for something else than making sure we make our customers as happy as possible and as successful as possible. And so this is really a collaborative process for us. We want to make sure that we can do it in a way that makes our customers as successful as possible. And importantly, depending on whether or not the strategy is just, say, domestic in the US or international, we're able to accommodate where that customer base could be. I would say a majority of our customers are actually outside of the United States. Now, some of our largest customers are not outside the United States. They're well-known companies here in the US, but they've launched international expansion. PayPal, for instance, launching in the UK, and they'll launch in other jurisdictions over time. These are about us working with people and making them successful.
So it sounds like in addition to the platform, you're actually providing end-to-end services to get the customer up and running. It sounds like that would be quite important, because a lot of folks, I'd assume, are new to this space as they're entering.
Yeah, one of our, I think, key themes for us as a company is how can we partner? How can we be a resource? Because entering crypto, while it has gained a lot of mainstream momentum, is still fairly novel for most companies to get into. It's a different way of thinking about your relationship with your customers. It's a whole different asset class to make available. How to do that in a way that other people have done, how to do it in a regulated way, how to do it in a way that's going to create trust and long-term goals. So there's so much that firms have to think about. And even, for instance, when it's just a firm saying, I'd like to be able to just buy it for our own balance sheet. That still involves a lot of effort. And you all know that as well as anybody, let alone if you're going to say, let's launch this to millions of people in the US and outside the US.
Yeah, I think buying on our balance sheet's a lot easier than launching to 1 million people. So I would agree with that. So how do your customers define success then? And I'm sure it's different depending on the customer, but is it a revenue number? Is it an adoption number? Is it a number of customers? Like how is success defined by a few? Give a few examples, and I'm sure it's different for all of them.
Sure. Well, I think probably the most common is engagement. So ultimately, you're launching this product because you want your customers to use it. And so, there's different ways to think about how someone is using this type of thing. One could be engagement with the customer. How much more are they using your products? How much more are they coming to your website or to your app? Another way is how much activity is happening. So not necessarily engagement, but for instance, how much do they own and hold and keep in place? What percentage of your user base has been converted into a participant in these types of assets? And so those are, I think, probably the most common way of understanding it. And inevitably, you launch something, that's just the actually beginning. I mean, there's a lot of hard work to go into getting ready to launch, but then there's a lot of hard work once you've launched. It's not going to immediately switch, flip the switch where you're going to be having 100% of your users either turned on, and once 100% are turned on, that they're going to necessarily even know to engage. So how to think about it, we offer a lot of best practices around, here's what can work for you to be able to have your customers really want to use this and be a part of this asset class and this community.
So you offer a set of different products and services. What would you say are the ones that are driving the most sort of adoption for your customers? Where do you see the spikes in sort of demand, and sort of where do you think that you're seeing the most interest and also specialty in your area?
Well, I think that there's a clear interest level in marketplaces that have never had access to crypto at all. That's really clear. You have customer segments or customer bases where they just haven't had access and they want to, or they are a type of customer base that hasn't been able to access, say, those communities in the way they would like, maybe, because they're high-powered users or, very sophisticated trading firms, and they may have been limited for whatever reason it might be. And so it really can depend upon, I think, unlocking certain pockets within your customer base or geographies that just haven't had the delivery that they want. So as things become a little bit more differentiated, it's not just about being able to say, for instance, hit a buy, sell, and a sell button. It could be, hey, I want to be able to trade large amounts on a high frequency basis, or I would like to be able to make this available to customer segments, like say in an IRA provider or whatever it might be, a financial advisor that hasn't been able to offer it to their customers before. Or it could be, I'd like to be able to get access in a jurisdiction where we haven't been able to offer this. And so all of those are ways in which you can create a different access than, say, on a retail basis or an early adopter basis, where you may have not been able to have that type of differentiation or that type of integrations. And so our APIs are meant for a very significant number of account types. And you'd be surprised at how many different types of ways people set up advisory businesses or set up corporate access, whatever it might be. We try to make it as flexible as possible. And that unlocks very significant numbers of customer segmentations that probably weren't needing to be served when it was just early adopter, and so they weren't trying to bring this product to their customers. I think those are really interesting ways that we try to help customers because it does become a lot about really understanding segmentation in maybe a different way than we've all talked about historically.
So just to segue off of that a little bit. So you mentioned Bank of America, and I think a lot has changed with, I'll call it sort of the traditional banks in the last year in terms of their stance towards crypto. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in that area?
Well, I think regulatory clarity, regulatory certainty, regulatory consistency are things that all of these large institutions are looking for. Frankly, we're looking for it. Yeah. And I think that we've obtained it more than almost any other firm. However, it's still not as good as it could be in order to really make this shift possible, especially for larger institutions. As you can imagine, they have big businesses. There's a lot of oversight. They have a lot of protections they put into place, and they're constantly trying to think of, how much effort do they need to put into launching new products? And the effort that has to go into crypto and blockchain-based products is very significant because, in some sense, it's a whole new type of technology stack, and it's certainly one in which different regulators have different opinions on things. I think that there are clearly some very large financial institutions that are being very proactive and thinking about how this technology can do two things. One is enable new products to their customers that haven't existed before, crypto-based products, for instance, blockchain native assets. And then there's a very significant number of products that they're interested in that are about changing how their current products are delivered or how their current products are constructed. So it's basically, how do they change the plumbing of their systems? How do they change the product delivery? People don't just want dollars or crypto to move 24/7, 365, programmatically, instantaneously, and in a very open way. They almost want all assets to do that. And these large institutions are in a unique position because they have all the customers today. The challenge they have is, how can they offer those customers the products that they now want and that they're going to continue to need as the economy shifts. And as that economy shifts, the financial system has to respond as well. And how is the economy shifting? Well, there's a lot of talk about Web3 and metaverse and how NFTs are a precursor to this. I think that's all true, and it's happening quickly, and they recognize it. And so you have thought leaders like Bank of America who are saying, I want to be a part of this. I want to learn about it. And I would also want to do more than learn. I want to actually make sure that we're offering products in a way that will keep us at the forefront.
Yeah, I think that's been a big shift in the discussion in the last year, Charles, is, a large bank can have whatever position they have on Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, but the underlying technology can improve their existing products significantly. And that's sort of undeniable at this point. And I think everyone has to have a strategy related to that, which is where you guys come in. Tell me about what you see happening in the next 1 to 3 years. What are the big shifts we're going to see? We're talking again in a year, and I'm talking to Charles, and now you don't have 280 people, you have 1,000 people. What has changed?
Yeah, well, the first thing that we always have to keep in mind is that, price is not indicative of fundamentals. And that can always be difficult to keep in mind because if you see price and you see it every single day. But prices move around. What are the underlying fundamentals? It's how many wallets are there? How much value is being moved around? How is it being used? Which firms are coming in and beginning to enable it in a new way? And when I look at those underlying fundamentals, and we have a very unique position as an infrastructure provider in seeing the breadth of firms in terms of types of firms, the geographies, et cetera. And I'd say the fundamentals have never been better. They're actually more exciting than ever. And they're more exciting because it's beyond just one facet of, say, crypto, like let's do crypto trading. It's the whole wide range of opportunities. And I think that'll be very clear over this next year. And so now that's the next 1 year fundamentals, but that's going to play out over the next 2 and 3 years as well. And so the network is strong, utility is increasing, development continues on the blockchain, whether it's Bitcoin blockchain, and obviously a lot of other blockchains, Ethereum, et cetera. And I think that's a sign of a lot of vibrancy. It's a lot of creativity, and it's helping to solve problems that are inherently part of a new space. How much throughput can you have? How much programmability can you take? How much privacy should you start to put into place? I'm not sure we know the final answers to all of those things. But what you can say with real confidence is the amount of capital and talent, human capital and dollars that have come in is absolutely tremendous in the last year. That's not going anywhere because the price went down 50%. That is going to continue to be invested and put to work. And ultimately, you have to look, through just like any stock chart. Day-to-day noise is very hard to see what the trend is. When you step back, you can see what it is. And even sometimes in a year, you can't always see the trend. After the dot-com crash, that had nothing to do with the underlying fundamentals. but it just meant that the price had gotten out of whack. Ultimately, the fundamentals have borne out. I mean, it's changed everybody's lives. That is absolutely, to me, what will be clear over the next 1 to 3 years.
That's awesome. The passion is coming through on this topic. So I love it. So bring us home. What are your plans for Paxos in the next 1 to 3 years? What are some new products you might have planned, expansion areas to the extent that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a big 1 to 3 years for us. We're clearly going to grow. We're going to add a lot of employees. Our goal is to be the most regulated and trusted operator in the space. We serve some of the most sophisticated entities, and we know how to navigate the digital asset ecosystem and how to do it on a global basis and with global regulators. And we're not just a vendor. We're here to be partners. We're here to really co-author the success of what our partners are going to do and make sure that they have a blockchain strategy and solution set that's right for their business. There's $700 trillion of assets in the world. We want to make sure that every single one of those assets is moving in an instantaneous way. I believe they will be replatformed on a blockchain. That might not happen in 1 year or even 3 years. That's a lot of assets, but it's going to absolutely happen. And partly what will also happen is there's going to be so many assets that are created that are traditional financial assets. They're digitally native, and NFTs being a perfect example of that. And so we're building a set of interconnected solutions that can tokenize, that can custody, trade, settle any asset class. And that's from cash to securities to commodities. And I think that's what we're going to see very clearly over the next 1 to 3 years is this transformation that's going to happen within the space is going to need a regulated infrastructure provider, one that can keep the space open, but also make it available on as wide a basis as possible. Because ultimately assets are going to move at the speed of information, at the speed of the real economy, and in the way the real economy is moving, which, as we're all living our lives every single day, can see is dramatically different than it was 5 or 10 years ago. And that shift is going to continue to happen, and we're going to power it.
That's an awesome vision, Charles, and I could see the growth that you're about to continue over the next few years, and I see your excitement. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for what you're doing for Bitcoin and for corporations, enabling them on Bitcoin and on cryptocurrencies in general. It's a fantastic conversation. Don't forget us a year, 2, 3 years from now when you get really, really big and awesome and dominate the
Can't
world.
wait to be back for more.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Bye.